you can only actually get pregnant one day of the month.
Wow, is it?
Yeah. So sperm can live in the womb for up to 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be careful like the week prior.
So with women taking all these contraception pills and stuff like that, so it's mainly bad for their body. And through that motion, it's kind of like bringing this whole distortion or unwellness within the womb.
Yeah. It's masking, you know. I had dropped into my serious mode here because it's I ran a women's circle once and there was about 20 women in the circle.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 6 women in there that spoke of an example when they'd been put on the contraceptive pill. And none of them were for contraception. The reason why they'd been put on it.
Yeah.
One was for depression, one was to stop the erratic periods, one was, you know, one was for acne, I think, you know, and that's not what the contraceptive pill is for. And
Welcome to the World Inspires, where their world can inspire your world. It's a beautiful episode, and today I'm your host, Geo, and we got our beautiful guest, Rebecca, also known as the Womb Medicine Woman. How are you today? How you feeling?
I'm really good. I'm feeling really good.
Well, thank you for being here in this episode today.
Me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's such a pleasure. Such how can I say, an experience just to know more about womb healing, coming from a point of view, because obviously as a man, I don't know too much about womb healing and tapping into the divine feminine as well. So it's going to be an interesting episode for me and for the people, the viewers as well. So, well, let's start with like a question. What is womb healing?
So womb healing itself, you know, sometimes I think the word womb, it throws people off. You know, even women will come to me sometimes, they're like, womb healing, what is that? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
So obviously we think about the womb as an organ,
yes,
which it is, and you will know very deeply, and I'm sure many people who engage in your page will know, we're not just a physical body, we're also, you know, we work in an energetic body. So when we think about womb healing, we're not necessarily working with the physical womb, but we're working with the energy center of the womb.
Okay.
So when we tap into womb healing, we're trying to, I suppose, clear out any, because the womb becomes like a little bit of a dumping ground, if you will, for you know, energies, emotions, sexual partners, traumas, and then also obviously the physical aspect of what many women have been through, of maybe various different contraceptions. You know, so many diseases of the womb exist now. So what we're doing within womb healing is using different energetical practices to clear that space, essentially, and return it back to its original state.
Wow, okay, I like that. So when it comes to that, what does it involve? Like, what kind of practices do you use? So
a lot of what I do an online course. That's kind of my main focus, and I do some retreat days. And what I try to really help women to do is just tap into their inner guidance. So obviously, what many of us have lost, both men and women, is that connection to the body. So I always use the term "learn the language of your own body," and from there, when we begin to understand the language of our own body, we then begin to understand what it is that our body needs, and then we use various other practices, you know, obviously diet, a thing called Johny steaming, physical movement practices, breath work practices, you know, and just learning how to feel and release things from the body rather than holding it in.
Okay, because I feel like sometimes, I'm guessing through this whole practice, it's all about feeling to release it.
Very much so.
Mainly so. Because I know like sometimes we just kind of like use all these kind of tools, whether like, you know, medicine or paracetamol, all these things to like kind of numb the pain. Yeah. And you think like, oh, it's done, it's dealt with, but truth be told, you haven't really dealt with the root of the cause. So your practice mainly goes through the root of healing the
basically
womb.
Yeah, that's always what my aim is to do, because if you think about normal society, you know, a lot of women are told things like your hormones are unbalanced. So women will come to me and they'll say, well, I've got unbalanced hormones, and I'm like, okay, but why? Yes. Why? Let's dig a little bit deeper as to why you've got imbalanced hormones, you know, or I've got this, okay, but why? And we just keep digging a little deeper and deeper. And I work, as I say, with the energetic body rather than, you know, scientifically saying, oh, this is like this and this is like this. Yeah. There's something that you just asked that I wanted to refer back to, and it's totally gone from my mind. But,
is it? Oh, okay. Well, we'll come back to it. We'll just flow with it. So, out of all this, what got you into womb healing? What
my own personal experience, and I've just remembered what I was going to say.
Okay.
So the body's communication, obviously something that a lot of women suffer with is pain in the womb. And pain is our body's way of screaming and saying, there's something up, there's something up.
Yes.
That's just what I wanted to refer to. But again, we mask it. That's what we do. We take painkillers or take various different things. Or, some women are even happy when they don't get their menstrual cycle anymore because they think, well, no pain.
Yeah.
So personally, it was that. I had such a traumatic experience with my own cycle, with my own relationship, not just to my womb and my cycle, but also to what it means to be feminine, to what it means to be in the divine feminine. Like many women and like many people in society, I was very much not even living in masculine, but just not understanding what feminine energy was and then how to live through that. And it was when I reached a point of, I'd done a lot of healing but I was still having problems with my period and my cycle, and I sort of sat down and went, what's going on here? Why am I still getting all these pains? Why am I being so sick? And then I just dove so deep into it, and then suddenly discovered this was my path in life. It was my huge passion, and healed my own relationship with my womb and with my inner feminine, and then wanted to help other women to do the same.
That is so
men,
beautiful. I think that's what it is as well. Like, I think it's all about one in either relationship. Like, if one heals, it consecutively heals the other partner as well. So it's all about one does the work, and then it just kind of gravitates towards the other one as well, and then it just flows with harmony. I like that. So how long did it take you to get to this point? When did you first start practicing this?
It was about 4 years ago that I first sort of was like, right, this is it. Because obviously it was coming up for a little while, but that was when I took the leap and did some courses. I must have read every book that exists on the womb. So yeah, it was about 4 years ago, and that succession, and then it's just got more and more intense with every year that's passed, and more gifts have been developed and more training and things. So yeah, about 4 years.
4 years, wow. I like the fact that you're not really getting your menstrual cycle and everything like that was kind of affecting you, tapping into the divine feminine, and also even just recognizing what the divine feminine is. So what is it? What does it mean for you?
The divine feminine, I was just thinking about this before we came on, and the divine feminine is, it can't be seen or touched, if you will. It's all that is felt. It's what we feel, and it's I often think of the divine masculine as consciousness. It's very still. It's the oak tree. And the divine feminine is the ocean. It's the pulse. It's that movement through us, and that's what's suppressed in not just women but also men. That ability to feel, and not just feel the negative emotions and crying and whatever it may be, but to feel life in a pleasurable way, enjoy things, to laugh. That to me is the divine feminine, that fluidity that we have, that almost chaos. I suppose it's a bit chaotic,
Oh, so it's all about embracing all these emotions and knowing how to express them in a divine manner, where it's not so I'm just gonna suppress it, usually men are used to do anything, because we both have divine feminine and divine masculine within ourselves. So it's more I feel when you get to this godly state, it's more about balancing them both. You know what I mean? And it's not just about I'm just this, I'm just that. It's more sometimes you gotta bring that part of you out, and sometimes you gotta tap into the other part as well to get more creative as well. So what are the tools that you would use to tap in more into the divine feminine for the people that haven't?
One of the things that I use that is if you were interested in this work, what I would really bring it back to is something called cycle tracking. So you may or may not be aware. Obviously, women go through a menstrual cycle every month. Which is roughly, it's not always, everybody's different, but roughly 28 days, which then fits into a 4-week cycle. This is the information I discovered that blew my mind. So 4 different weeks, and we correlate those 4 different weeks to the seasons of the year. So I'm sure many women watching at home, or many men, will say to their partner maybe, "Oh, don't know who you are, 1 week to the next, you are totally different." But the reality is that we are different between these weeks. So what we do with these weeks is correlate them to the seasons of the year. So inner winter is the bleeding phase.
Okay.
And we call it the inner winter because, it's a time when you need to go in, have deep rest, restore. Your inner spring is just after the bleed, so that's when you start to come a little bit more alive and wake up. Inner summer is around about ovulation, that's when you feel a little bit more attractive, you want to be out there. And then your inner autumn is the premenstrual week, which is usually the tough time for people. Now, a lot of women have not been provided with this information, so they don't know what is happening throughout the cycle.
Yeah.
Now, when you begin to track your cycle, so when you first get your bleed, you write day 1 and track it becomes a blueprint for how you feel.
Okay.
So generally on like day 14 of your cycle every single month, you will always feel the same. So instead of suddenly feeling, really good, and then the next day you feel bad and you don't know why, you've got an understanding of it because you understand your cycle.
Okay.
So that's just a really good way to start to tap into that fluid like energy and that changing energy, and a way to tap into your own body and the language of your own body, because it's not me saying to you, this is how you will feel on this day. You are understanding in yourself, that's how I feel on that day.
That is wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, obviously I wouldn't know much about it, but I'm pretty sure like a lot of women wouldn't even know about this, because they usually tap in like, okay, let me just check which day I'm supposed to get my period, and that's basically what it is. Like I even got an app to check or whatever, and that's all that matters. And then everything else, they just have to, the people that I encounter when I'm having my period, they have to just accept the fact that I'm all moody and stuff like that. But it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. You know how to control it, how to like work with it, because the more you kind of understand it or understand it within your body, then you know how to like, okay, cool, I'm not gonna put myself in these kind of emotions for me to be triggered, or I'll be able to more likely know how to adapt to it.
It's how to tap into the power of the energy of each part of the cycle. So like the bleeding phase of the cycle, for example, if you look way back in history, it was such a sacred and important time. And it's actually, I don't know the scientific evidence on this, but I've read that you actually release a little bit of DMT, extra DMT in the brain when you're in the bleeding phase. So it's a very dreamy like state. It's very, I've had like almost like premonitions and dreams and things that will happen ahead. But because of this very fast-paced society that we live in, women don't get that opportunity to go into that state of rest. Whereas like some tribes in the Amazon, for example, the women will go away and come back and relay their dreams during that time to the tribe, and it's really taken on board, and it's such an important time. Whereas here, it's that. So women may present themselves as maybe a little bit more irritable or angry, but it's because they're not supposed to be out there interacting with people, working at a desk, doing all these things. You're supposed to be in a space, being in this meditative space. And we have this beautiful thing in the menstrual cycle that we do have the balance of both energies, because the opposite side, closer to ovulation, is more like this masculine energy. So it's not like you're dropping into this, that's the feminine, you just have to sit around all day. But it's this balance between the two, and unfortunately the world that we live in just doesn't really make much way for that.
Wow, that is powerful. And that's what I was saying as well, like when I said like, if you got your period or whatever, you might want to not engage with certain things. That's mainly that, because usually you're not giving time to your body to relax or to experience what it needs to experience, because you're so indulged in the outside world and just work that you don't even get the time to like just hone in on the energy that's bringing to you, channel it. And then because of that, it comes out as moody aggression or anything like that.
Because again, your body is communicating. It's like, no, go away. Let's go and be on our own.
That is powerful.
Yeah,
that is
it's
powerful
incredible.
itself. So when it comes to like this womb healing, is it like a one-day process, or is it more like multiple sessions? It's a whole journey experience?
A whole journey. So with me, my main focus at the moment is an online course that I'm running, and it's all about the cycle, feminine empowerment. We bring in so many different things, and that's an 8-week course. So I'm going to be launching it in April, because we're going to Peru. So that's 8 weeks, but the process itself is ongoing. And then I do various different retreat days, which are incredible in themselves, because once you're sort of armored with the information, even people watching now, it just shifts something in your consciousness. And you get to the 8-week thing, and then on a one-to-one basis, it would just really depend on what that individual woman needs.
Okay, of course.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're all like different, so we can't just put that time on like, okay, cool, I only have this amount of time to heal, and that's about it. It's not like, no, you gotta know how your body works. Somebody can just happen because they're more in tune sometimes, and then somebody that they're really out of tune, then they gotta take more time for it as well. That's beautiful. That's quite powerful in itself. So when it comes to this whole process about like, tapping into the divine feminine, what are a few like practices that you know and that okay, cool, I'm in my divine feminine right now? Because as you said, you're more like flowy, whereas like a man would be more like, dance and still. When it comes to that, like, how would you know, okay, I'm in my divine feminine right now?
I think feeling, allowing yourself to feel. I've really been reflecting on this a lot and thinking, how can I define, but this is it, in the divine feminine, you can't define it in one box, but when you are feeling, so for me, it's like moments, like it might be when I'm singing, in the space holding ceremony, that for me, I am in it's pouring through me, there's no thought, it's so, fluid. Maybe when somebody's dancing, but it could be anything. I think it's just when you're in that full feeling, intuitive state, the analytical mind is just gone for a little while, and you're just free flowing, through life. And that could be anything for anyone. People, there's a big thing obviously about being in the flow state. Some people get into that state and they work, and it's just that free flowing state where you're not overthinking things, you're not, it's just fluid.
Intuition. I feel like you said it right there as well when you're singing in ceremonies. So that's how I mainly know her, through other ceremonies and practices. And it's so special when I hear you sing. Like, I can definitely feel like it's, when there's people that sing and they just sing more like, okay, it's a human singing. But when you sing, when you tap into that divine, like, it's just so like divine. It's like, it's out of this world, It brings you back to like ancient practices, And I feel like that's the beauty about it. When like, I guess when you're tapping into your divine feminine or even divine masculine in general, when you tap into the divine in itself, it's so like ancestral. And I think that's why like they were so in tune with it. And we're so out of tune. So like we're not fully feeling these gifts and talents that we have within ourselves. We're not tapping in fully. And I think that's mainly what it is.
I guess in some ways it just came through. I just thought, we were saying about the divine feminine, and it's unseen. But then when you bring it through in something like singing, you're bringing it through into something tangible.
Yes.
So then suddenly everybody can experience it. It's like, wow, what was that? And it is that divine ancestral energy. It's not Rebecca in her human self singing. It's this like bump power coming through, and these different sounds that allow you to again feel and experience it.
And I get shivers every time when we talk about these moments as well. And I think that's what it is. It's like it's coming through the spirit, through the soul, and it's not more like this human body is just doing this and that. It's more like I wouldn't say out of body experience, but it's mainly like that when you're tapping into that spirit, So that's quite beautiful. My other question is this now. How would a woman know that she needs womb healing?
There will be an inner knowing. I think, like I mentioned before, there is one of the shamanic womb healing courses I did. One of the parts of it, what we had to do was write a list of diseases of the womb.
Okay.
So the lady had the board, and it was actually so upsetting to see the list of the diseases of the womb. So it could be that they're experiencing something like endometriosis, PCOS, or I'd be here forever, writing things, cysts, fibroids, all of these various different things. But also there may have been specific womb traumas, like sexual trauma, abortion, miscarriage, maybe fertility issues, period pains, and also there might just be no experience of any of that in a physical sense, but just a deep inner knowing of, I want to connect a little bit deeper to this wisdom. So I guess ultimately there would just be some resonance maybe within this conversation where they may think, I feel like that's something that I need. And I think that's the main way that they would know.
That's the main thing. So,
but obviously then the physical symptoms that might be arising.
Of course. And which you pointed out a few things here and there that kind of like got me to question. So with women taking all these contraception pills and stuff like that, it's mainly bad for their body. And through that motion, it's kind of like bringing this whole distortion or unwellness within the womb.
Yeah, it's masking. I had dropped into my serious mode here because it's I ran a women's circle once, and there was about 20 women in the circle. And there were 6 women in there that spoke of an example when they'd been put on the contraceptive pill. And none of them were for contraception. The reason why they've been put on it. One was for depression, one was to stop the erratic periods, one was, just one was for acne, I think, and that's not what the contraceptive pill is for. And I think we've reached a point where people are going to the doctors, women, with all of these wild array of problems, and the answer is, I'll put you on the contraceptive pill. I always try to hold back to say too much because people will come at you from a scientific perspective, but you're interfering with hormones, and the dosage that is actually in a contraceptive pill is so much higher than what the body actually naturally produces, and then it begins to affect the actual hormones. And to my mind, the hormonal system, it's what creates you. The way your hormones interact with each other, and they're then how you present yourself every single day, and it's definitely causing a lot of damage to women because they don't really know themselves. I had a friend who was on the contraceptive pill, and she didn't think she wanted to have children. Oh, wow. She came off it, and suddenly the desire for children came. So that to me is just a big teller, and there's a lot of examples like that. Obviously, for some people, it's a wonderful thing and used in the right way, and if it fits. But I just think, like everything that exists in Western medicine, we're not provided enough with what are the actual side effects and how likely are they to happen, rather than just here's a little leaflet. Oh, you might get these things, and does this person actually need this thing? We can use natural contraception if we're truly tapped into our cycle. You ovulate at the same day every single month, and you know exactly when your ovulation date is. Now, if women were taught that from age 11, from the beginning, you would just know, and you would be in flow, and you wouldn't have taken these pills that have interfered with that cycle. It would just be fluid and natural, So you can only actually get pregnant one day of the month.
Wow, is it?
Yeah. So sperm can live in the womb for up to 5 days. So you have to be careful, like the week prior. But the egg itself is only out for 12 to 24 hours. Oh, wow. So this is the thing. When I was in school, nobody ever told me that. It's just like, don't get pregnant. So you think, fear. So and if we were actually armoured with the information in a proper way, things might be different.
Wow. I think that right there spoke a lot to all the women listening, or even the men as well listening to this, that the fact that they're probably just there risking, and sometimes it could be coming from the men, the pressure, like, I don't want you to get pregnant, so take something so we can just, not use protection kind of thing as well.
Do you know they actually started clinical trials on a contraceptive for men, and they stopped it because there was too many side effects?
What?
Yeah.
No way. Well, I ain't never having that. No. Okay. Well, that speaks a lot. And I feel like from this whole conversation, I feel like this womb healing, from my point of view, is more about like coming back to life, feeling, living, instead of just like surviving on this numbness of trying to basically cover this emotion, put this mask on just because you don't want to go through these experiences when it's part of you. It's more about like embodying and knowing that this is what makes you a woman in general, and it makes you want to feel things. So it's okay for you to go through these emotions and welcome it more, instead of just like, oh no, I don't want it. And then when it's there, it's like you're just basically denying yourself at that point in time.
I think another important thing to touch on as well is the womb. Like, everybody enters the world through the womb. Everybody. So if we've got unhealthy wombs, I always say to people, if you imagine it like this, say your house, like a few people came into our home this morning and panicking, you want to clean it up, you want it to be nice and clean and everybody to feel welcome as they come in. And most wombs are not well. So our very first home that we reside in, it's the mother might be stressed that there's things happening within the womb. It's this very, so restoring this for me is restoring the first home of the spirits that are coming through for the new earth. And another thing to say, just for inclusivity, the energetic space of the womb is known as the hara. Okay. So any women who might have actually not have their physical womb anymore, or also men, we still do have the physical womb space. So womb healing can still be done even though the physical organ may not be there.
Okay. Okay, so it's never over. It's never say never kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? So it all comes to that. And I like the fact that you mentioned about like, cleaning your house, like making sure like, whichever spirit baby comes out is gonna be a healthy one because of the preparation that you had through the womb, through the house, and coming out as beautiful as it could be, instead of just like, oh, he was born like that and it wasn't my fault. It was just because it was him. So that speaks a lot. I feel like that makes a lot of sense for everybody to embrace. Oh, question. So, when some women, when it comes to the period, they have a really strong one. Is it because also that it's not in flow, or is it meant to be like that sometimes because they're able not to like move at all sometimes when it comes to that?
A multitude of reasons. So this is where if somebody was to come to me, we would assess, a hell of a lot of things, because sometimes it can just be quite simply lifestyle. They might not be resting enough, they might not be drinking enough water, they might not be getting, say, enough magnesium in the diet. It can be things like that. More often than not, with the majority of women that come, they're not getting enough rest.
Okay.
So it's almost like the body, screams and releases, and forces you to rest, if you will.
Oh.
Now, again, from a scientific perspective, there's a wide load of reasons. But if I find if people begin to prioritise rest and prioritise that time, those symptoms begin to reduce. Because that was my problem. It was like super heavy. I was so ill, couldn't move for like a few days, and it was debilitating. Whereas now, and make sure that I rest, but it's not that level of, I'm tired and I get, a minimal amount of pain. But yeah, there's a multitude of reasons. So we'd have to, on an individual level, I suppose, assess that and look at maybe traumas in the life, diet, lifestyle, all of these different, all the things that they don't look like that in Western medicine.
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
and it makes sense. I like that. So, as for now, for like the viewers to take something away with this whole, even though they took a lot, I'm pretty sure. But when it comes to this, like, what would you advise them to do as a daily practice for today, just to initiate this womb healing by themselves in a way or the other?
I would start tracking the cycle. I have some information on that. I have like an ebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if I can divert people to my Instagram, and then you can literally download the ebook. It's free, and it has some information on how to begin to cycle track. And then also, just tapping into the space. A lot of people are very aware of tapping into the energy of the heart, so maybe placing the energy over the heart and breathing into it, but also just tapping into the energy of the womb, maybe placing the hands over and doing a few breaths and connecting to and seeing if you can hear any little whispers or communications from the womb space.
And it's mainly about, like, when you say little whispers, like more like your intuition telling you, like, okay, this is what's going on right now, kind of thing. Because sometimes we're so like out of tune with our intuition. Sometimes So we were speaking about intuition before we got cut off. Which ways will it be more easy for people to like be in tune with their intuition, if anything?
Clearing the mind. I think, just getting out the way of the analytical mind. So the analytical mind serves its purpose, obviously, but most of us are just residing within the analytical mind. So the intuition is the one that guides you from within those little whispers. I always say it's like you get a full body yes or a full body no, and sometimes a situation might come up, like you might meet a person and you just get an instant no. You think something's not right there, and instead of sort of trusting in that, you get in your analytical mind and you start thinking, but they're a really nice person, or they've done this or they've done that, or that person likes them, or whatever it may be. And then something along the line happens maybe with that person. You think, I knew.
Red flags.
We always say that. And I always say people are a bit hesitant with the intuition, but we always use terminology. It's like, something just didn't feel right then. But we tend to ignore it. And we think, something doesn't feel right about doing that. And instead of not doing it, we'll go, but I'll do it anyway. And then you get there and you go, I knew something didn't feel right.
I've been through that motion so many times. I'm like, let me just test it out. Let me see if I was wrong. I was right. It's like, why do I keep waiting? Am I going to learn the lesson?
Yeah. And usually I think the whispers from the intuition are always guiding you towards the same thing. It's the truer self. So some of us will hear the same whispers over and over. So it's that little voice that you sort of ignore and you go, no.
It's all about like learning which voice is that.
Yeah.
And
I think that the intuition is quite clear. So if you can get into a state of sort of doing some breath work and clearing it out, one of my friends, I should actually mention, she's called Hannah, she does inner voice sessions. And that's what she does. It's, breath work and connects you to, and then asks you inner voice questions directly. And they're very clear answers. It doesn't say like, well, I think what you should do, Geoffrey, is go to the shop. And then it's like, no,
go there,
stay here, do that, read more, love. It's very clear, just direct, simple answers. It's not confusing.
Okay. So then it's mainly when we give it, because I think it's all about us, well, like how much time you give it to like follow through with the thing. And I think there was this saying about like take 5 seconds, and if within those 5 seconds you don't execute, then your analytical mind will just tap in and be like, give you reason for why you shouldn't be doing this, when it's all about you just putting kind of fear, because I think our analytical mind is more about just keeping us safe, and not just letting us get out of the comfort zone, and whereas like that's where you kind of get to grow, with the being uncomfortable with things. So
I'm smiling because you just triggered some things for me, because this is I was talking to Chris once about this, about hesitation and that split-second decision, and I was saying, the way people wonder if like, could you fly if you trusted enough, and I say it's the hesitation that means that you can't. If you just jumped and you fully trusted, and that's into any decision. And I always explain it as like this crossroads. It's like you can go that way and follow your intuition, or you can go that way and follow your maybe more self-destructive self, and you have a moment, like you said, 5 seconds of decision, and it's like, which way are you going to go? And if you don't go that way in that moment, then you end up assessing it for too long, and you fall instead of flying.
Literally, and then it's like, oh, okay, I gotta try again now. Let me go back to point one again, and then we go this way instead. Oh wow, that's quite powerful in itself. Okay, so I feel like we kind of covered quite a lot, and then if people want to know more, they can definitely find you on your Instagrams, which you want to shout it out,
which is The Womb Medicine Woman, at The Womb Medicine Woman. And my website is just rebeccastewart.co.uk.
Beautiful. And I'll obviously have the descriptions down below, so people can just click on the link and then they can find you as well. So yeah, I feel like, do you want to share anything else that you wanted to talk about, let the viewers know, maybe?
Probably, just obviously me through my partner and myself, we run some retreats and stuff as well, so we have another Instagram handle, which is sacrednature.world. Where we share a lot, about like plants and retreats and various other different things. So that would be great to check that out too.
And I'll have that as well in the description down below as well for them. So then obviously that's when Chris will come in, and then I will do an interview with him as well. So you guys gonna see that perspective on the whole plant medicine and everything as well. So I think they all collide with each other in a way or the other.
It's all intertwined. We work. So, I mean, plants and nature is intuition as well. For me, it's that little divine energy that we all are connected to.
Literally.
And the plants help us to reconnect.
And I think the theme is always about like, remember who you are, and I feel like through us going through this, like going into nature, even just like, having these kind of like spiritual, like, breakthrough breaths and stuff like that, is like we are remembering who we are, and through feeling as well. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I always feel great when I come in and in tune with like Rebecca or Chris as well. So it's a beautiful experience, and you guys should definitely tap in and get involved, because it's all about like, self-healing and self-empowerment, because even when it comes to the womb healing, it's all about like, feminine empowerment, right? So, and it's all about being in tune and being your true self, instead of just, playing the victim or asking the world like, oh, why is this happening to me? It's mainly because, following your intuition and you're going against yourself, and then you're attracting that for yourself in a way. So tap in and tap out in a way or the other. So it's been beautiful. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. Like I said, guys, it's going to be all in the description down below, so you can find her. And send you guys much love and light.
Thanks for listening.